able to be here, the leader who actually initiated this whole forum today. May Allah give her all the sabar and also the recovery, inshallah. Our reading club, our reading program has just started this year, and this is really remarkably. It is very challenging because we have 1,200 students primary, and the teachers are like taking turns in the morning, 6:50 reaching school, reading to children. So brothers and sisters, madrasah is not like 1 kilometer or 2 kilometer away from our homes, and therefore for the teachers to reach here at 6:50 memang is a bit difficult. So if there are, perhaps many other volunteers, parents volunteers who drive to school, we like very much to ask you. Already now at the moment there's so many parents volunteers who help us with that, inshallah, because we believe that if we instill in our children the love for reading, the passion for reading, whatever the subject is, inshallah one day they grow to love learning, inshallah, because learning comes from books. And I think all of us know that from the ayat Al-Quran, reading is one very important good habit that is being cultivated among us Muslims, inshallah. With that, I would like very much to look forward to us learning today as an audience, inshallah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Isham. All right. Let us begin today's forum by introducing our moderator, Dr. Al-Bakri Ahmad. Dr. Al-Bakri is the Dean of the MUIS Academy, which is the training arm of the Islamic Religious Council of Singapore, MUIS. He is also the Senior Director for Capacity Building. Prior to his current appointment, he served in several divisions, including Religious Education, Office of the Mufti, Research and Corporate Development. Let's welcome Dr. Al-Bakri to stage. Dr. Al-Bakri, please. Next, let's welcome Madam Mariam B., who is Dr. Al-Bakri's wife, a homemaker and a firm advocate of the reading culture. Madam Mariam B., marha. Next up, we have Mr. Iskandar and his wife, Madam Mariati. Mr. Iskandar is a design and technology teacher at Siglap Secondary, while Madam Mariati is teaching at Sengkang Primary School. Let's welcome them. Another husband and wife team, let me introduce to you Associate Professor Abdullah Al-Mamun and Madam Shabnam Akhtar. Professor Al-Mamun is an Associate Professor in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering in NUS. Madam Shabnam has a double Masters in National Development and English Literature and is currently the matron at Madrasah Al-Irshad's After School Care. Welcome. Thank you very much. And for the final two speakers, we have Mr. Aziz Ghulam and spouse, Madam Zainab Abdul Rashid. Mr. Aziz Ghulam has a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering and a master's in safety, health and environmental technology from NUS. Mr. Aziz is the managing director and principal consultant at Azan Consulting. Madam Zainab has a bachelor in estate management and is the director at Azan Consulting Private Limited. Let's give all our panelists a big round of applause and a marha. In this first segment, we will be discussing on how to raise children to become avid readers. Now I shall hand over the forum to our moderator, Dr. Al-Bakri, and may we all have a splendid discussion, inshallah. Dr. Al-Bakri, please.
Thank you, Mr. Shani. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Honorable Principal, Mr. Noor Hisham Sanif, Vice Principal, Madam Faiza Abdul Rahman, my dear speakers on stage with me, parents, children, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, we're able to meet this morning. I want to underline the point that this particular forum is supposed to be an informal forum, serious and informal, so we want to have a lot more interaction. And I mentioned to fellow speakers in our briefing this morning that we may not have all the answers. Some of you are also leading parents at home, and we may also want to share some of your own experiences later on. So don't treat us as experts on stage. We're here to learn from you too, because we are also trying to develop our children to continue to become avid readers. Parents, we know that reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body. That's a very important statement to remember. Reading is to the mind what exercise is to the body, and of course, reading requires effort. It is a good workout, just like our muscles. When we go for exercises, it needs to be worked out. We know for a fact that reading is a lot more demanding, at least neurobiologically more demanding. You need to put some focus, some attention, as opposed to reading, or as opposed to watching television, or as opposed to listening to the radio. All right, I think that's another important point. It requires effort. It is more demanding, as opposed to just being passive TV watchers or listening to the radio. However, we know for a fact that reading has its benefits. And I just want to share with you the 3 benefits before I move on to the actual forum proper. The first benefit would be that reading builds vocabulary. I think it's important to realize that reading will help us to find meaning of the words that we read, and over time build the vocabulary that we need for life, basically. It helps us to infer meaning. It helps us to use the dictionary. It builds the vocabulary. It helps us to be competent in our languages. Number 2, reading helps self-esteem, and this is quite true. Many young children do not have self-esteem because they don't have the vocabulary, they are shy to speak, they are shy to express their ideas because they don't read a lot. And reading builds self-esteem because the more we read, the more knowledgeable we become, and with more knowledge, we build confidence, and with more confidence, we build self-esteem. And that's really the process. And therefore, it's important for our children to read. And the last benefit, and of course there are more benefits, but I will take the whole morning to talk about benefits, it improves creativity. And really, the mind will be creative once the kid starts reading, because he will actually venture, or she will actually venture into a realm which is beyond what we can actually offer within our own domain or our own living circumstances. I think it is through reading that we are exposed to new ideas. Principal mentioned earlier on that reading is a condition to be a leader. And when we walked in, we thought we were in the wrong forum because the forum says raising a leader. So I thought, am I in the right forum? But I understand that we can't be a leader if we don't read, because of the demands of the leader to understand our circumstances and our life today. In fact, to me, reading invites innovation. Reading helps us with our thinking process. And to me personally, that is the most beneficial, or that is the most important benefit of reading. Now I'm going to pause here for a moment. I want to start the conversation by starting with the statement. And the statement is really, reading begins at home. Right? We know the statement, charity begins at home, but we also know that reading begins at home. And if you have the booklet, and if you have time to read some of the articles offered by the speakers on stage, you will realize that most of them started their children's reading at home. Right? So reading begins at home, and I want to talk about the home environment. I want to talk about how does the values at home promote reading among our children. So we'll start with that, and then we'll go for a break, inshallah, at about 10 or 10-ish, for about 15 minutes or 10 minutes break, depending on how much time we need. And then when we come back, we have a part 2. And for part 2, I want to talk about parents' role, and how does parents deal with challenges at home as well as in school, as well as with the children, in trying to build them to become avid readers. maybe we have reluctant readers at home. How do we turn reluctant readers into avid readers? So there are two parts to this particular conversation, and of course, we've actually allocated an hour for question and answers, and I hope you ask questions. And if you don't have the answer, we'll tell you we don't have the answer. We'll take down those questions and we'll do some research, and we'll probably come back to you as well. But we also want you to share your own experiences at home so that we all can benefit from this sharing. Okay? So let's start the forum, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, and let's ask ourselves this important question. We know for a fact that reading begins at home. And therefore we ask ourselves this question. And perhaps I want to ask Madam Arianti this question, because if you read her article, there's a lot of things that she did when the kids were young, at home. So what are the values at home that promote reading? What are the things that we do at home that will actually make our young children become avid readers? Madam Arianti? And of course, Madam Arianti can call a friend, which is next to her. You want to find that water?
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So I start. So before I got married, also I'm interested in the learning of the child. Okay, so I started way ahead before I got married already. So I know what I want when I get married. I know what I want for my children. Okay, so I know that I want my child to be successful in life, in this world and the hereafter. That is what I had in mind. So when I got married, then I had a child. So I started. It's very well. This is what do? I began pasting flashcards on my ceiling. Let's say refrigerator. I put fridge. I pasted fridge, TV, books everywhere. There are flashcards on it to help my child learn. Okay, so when my mother-in-law relatives came, they asked, what's all these things? So my husband is very supportive. He says, this is what we're helping our children in there to read. So normally I had this structured activity every day. So Alhamdulillah, I was pregnant. I straight away I stopped working. I had the blessings. I can be a full-time housewife, so I concentrate on being a housewife, which is I think sometimes very daunting also, right? Because you have been working so long and suddenly you are cooped up at home. But then with this message in mind that I want my child to be the best, my time is over already, so I want my child to be the best that he can be. So I started on this reading program where I believe that, like Mr. Bakri was saying, that reading is a step to the other world, to the world of knowledge. Okay. Can I say more?
Yes, it's a home.
Right, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'll try to add for as much as we can, because our children are pretty much grown up. They're in their 20s right now, actually. As a father back then, we are glad that upon reflecting back, that we actually shared a very much common goal in our lives. Okay, so whatever my wife had learned prior to our marriage, I was there to support her ideas. So she would come to me and say, hey Abang, why not we do this thing, and this thing. I say, okay, let's go do it. So she would start doing it, then I would go end up finishing it usually. Even the pasting, she started doing it, I would end up finishing it. The flashcard, she would start doing it, I would end up finishing it. So husband's role is not just to go to work, but you got to finish up whatever your wife started off. Yeah, so that was very much. Our parents weren't very educated. If I were to recall what my mom would say, that she learned how to read and write under the rubber tree. Of course, she was joking because she was a rubber tapper when she was young. So when she came to our house, she would look at the cards that we pasted on almost everywhere, from the walls to the bathroom to the kitchen. She would say, "What song is?" I said, "I would just say, okay, it's for our children. Yeah, but then it was probably beyond her to understand what we were doing. But it was fine. She wasn't like, I don't know, anything, but she was like, okay, this is your life, your children, so your style, your way. That's how we started off, with simple things, small things, not very big things, to get our children very much into trying to read whatever they see. We were there to try and help them to start things off.
I want to take a point from there and then we develop it further. It seems that, you know, the role of husband and wife, the role of parents is important. But we want to expound that a bit more. Imagine a home, for example. We get some inkling as to what is the home of Mr. Iskandar and Madam Mariati. When she mentioned cards and flashcards, I could see the cards on the fridge, I could see the cards in the wall, I could see cards in the bathroom, right? Other than just cards on the walls, in the fridge, in the bathroom, what are the things that we do at home in order to create a conducive reading environment, for example? For example, yeah, does it mean that we ought to have a little corner where our children can read with sort of cushions, throw cushions for them to just lie down and read? How do they read newspaper, for example, if there's no dining table set aside? I'm just opening up the conversation because I think the environment at home is very important. And for that, I want Professor Mamun and Madam Shabnam to share with us how does values at home and activities at home, and later on Madam Mariam can add, how do we make our home reading friendly, in other words? And we have to ask ourselves this question: is our home reading friendly or not? Okay, so what is a reading friendly home?
Assalamualaikum to everybody. As I can see in the auditorium that there are more mothers than fathers. It tells me. But here I am to share my experience. What Sister Mariati told me and her husband, that what Madam Mariati was asking for, they were in the same team. This is what I want to emphasize, that a home should be a place where the father and the mother should be in the same team, not in the opposite teams. So they have to be united, their intention, their dreams, their plans for their future should be the same, inshallah. And first thing I want to emphasize as a mother is that you have to have the intention, the niyat, that this is what I want to see in our children. We have to have that intention and dream first. Then only we can, go forward. And as a mother, I can share my experience, what Mother Mariati was telling, that she wanted her children before she was married. In a way, she had a dream. But I'm not that fast. I had my plans when I first conceived my first child, Wasi. And when I was a pregnant mother, I knew that I'm carrying a person in me whom I want in a way. And then I prepared myself from the very first time. I started reading when I was a, pregnant mother. I had been reading, I was a teacher at that time. So I needed to read, and I thought, this is the time I must read, I must do good things, I must think good, because I'm carrying a soul whom I want to be good in, inshallah. I'm here today because I can tell my son, inshallah, is such a one whom I want like this. So far, inshallah, with the blessing of Almighty Allah and all your du'as there. We are very happy with our children. So, this is what I want to share, that the intention and the plan and the dream should be there in the father, and both the mother and the father should be supportive to each other. Yeah, and I had a career, but I had to sacrifice for the children. And I remember when my first son was even not 2 years, who couldn't read, I read every afternoon after lunch, every single day, means every single day. He didn't understand anything. My husband was saying, nowadays is the days of CDs and video, or they will see. I said, but reading, if he wants to know how to use the computer, he must know how to read the booklet, the manual, right? He needs to read it. He needs to learn reading. The passion for reading should be there. So I was reading every single afternoon, and I saw tremendous result. My son started reading before he was 3. He could read newspaper to my surprise. And then only I became, I'm talking to them. In those days I didn't know it. Just I was doing out of my own passion that I like to read. And I was reading to him. And then I saw the result. And my second son joined, he came. He was born, and then he joined automatically and joined the same camp. And he is even better reader. He reads more than the first one. Still today, their beds are full of all books. And the books which I read in my master degree of literature, they are reading it now. I'm surprised, I'm very happy, alhamdulillah. And one thing I want to say, as I got the opportunity, is that we have to instill the dreams, the self-esteem in our children, and reading book and giving them exposure through reading to a bigger world is very important and is very successful. Inshallah, I believe in that. So from my experience in Ishad, I can see when I told them what do you want to be, initially they were telling I want to be taxi driver, I want to be soldier. Now, after talking to them, they want to be scientists. They want to be big things because they are exposed now. So this is an example, hands-in example, proof that if you introduce to them the good things, children are there to take it, inshallah. This is what I have to say. Thank you very much.
Almost everything. But anyway, I think as Dr. Bakri has, Assalamu alaikum, as Dr. Bakri has mentioned at the beginning that this forum is about raising a leader, right? And Dr. Bakri mentioned that that begins at home, reading begins at home. So all the 3 speakers, those who have spoken before me, they emphasized on that reading culture at home. I would like to add one point to this. Actually, children learn more from what they see, what they experience every day, than what they are asked to do, right? So if they see their parents are reading every day, when they are very young, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years old, when they understand what is reading, and they see their parents are reading, then it will automatically be inculcated in them. They will be a reader. And this is important. It's not just having a table where people can read, spread the newspaper and read. It is the culture. The parents must be a reader if you want your child to be a reader. It is the first thing that you need, right? Of course, the first thing will be niyat. Whether you want your child to be a reader or not. Once you decide that, yes, I want my child to be a reader, then you yourself must be reader. That reader need not be technical reading, need not be academic reading, but reading and reading good things. Reading good things is important. Don't read trash, don't read rubbish. You read good things at home, your children will pick up that thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mahmood. I think we are quite convinced now that parents has an important role at home. I think the home must also be reading friendly to develop the reading culture. Dr. Mahmood mentioned about parents too will have to be seen to be reading. I want to turn over to Madam Zainab and Madam Mariam next to me. And she can call a friend if she wants to. But we want to try and understand what are the things that they do at home that will promote reading. And here, we also want to overlay with the fact that some parents are also working, some parents are also having difficulty in trying to spend time and quality time with their children. I know there's a second part on challenges, but I thought let's also deal with the issues of what is quality time? How do we actually spend quality time, quality reading time with our children? Okay? So I'll toss over to Madam Zainab and Mr. Aziz Ghulam. And then we move on to techniques later on. Just after that, we'll move on to what kind of tips and tricks, if you like, to try and develop the reading culture in our children. Okay?
رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First and foremost, I'd like to thank Madrasah Al-Irshad for inviting us to be one of the panelists in a topic which I'm actually very passionate about. So, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share. Okay, what they have said earlier about importance of having the husband and wife having the same set of vision and values that you want for your children applies to both of us also. The moment before I got married to him actually, when we decided, okay lah, he's gonna be the right guy for me, we actually sat down and said, okay, we want to be better Muslims. Why? Because we want to build a good family based on Islamic values. So we did that, and in the course of going for classes, we do a lot of reading and all that. And the realization that the child is an amanah, that realization sank in very strongly even before I got pregnant. So when I got pregnant, I was working as a researcher in Singapore Broadcasting Corporation for the current affairs program. When I got pregnant, even though I was working and my job involves a lot of reading, so it became, I took it as a responsibility on myself to ensure that I was equipped to be a good mother. I was equipped to be someone who is capable of carrying out my amanah to my children and to be able to bring them up to be the Khalifa that they are supposed to be, And therefore, the moment I got pregnant, I did a lot of reading. I prepared myself very well, how you bring up your kids and all that. And I read up books on how to do reading, how to teach kids how to read and all that. The reason being, I know that reading is very important. It is very important. It is the start to everything. Because when a child is able to read, like Dr. Bakri said, it builds his confidence, he gains a lot of knowledge. And when you are a confident person and you have a lot of knowledge, you will naturally become a leader in society. If you want to be a Khalifa, you are basically being a leader. So it doesn't mean you have to be a leader of the entire society. You can be a leader of your own home, you can be a leader in your own classrooms, in your own circle of friends. But you have to be a leader one way or another. And you can't be a leader if you don't have knowledge. You can't be a leader if you do not read enough or you do not have enough knowledge to be able to influence others or to be able to help others to become good. Yeah. So we decided at a very young age that we decided that reading is important, and therefore we set out doing a lot of stuff to ensure that our home is reading friendly. You were asking just now what do you do around the house to ensure that the house is conducive to reading. We set out at the very beginning saying that reading books are very important. So if you come to my house, you don't see lots of decoration because my house is decorated with books. You have a whole wall. Every single wall space is lined with bookshelves, and we have books as decorations around our house. We make sure that there are bookshelves in every single bedroom, and when the kids were young, of course, the bookshelves are lower so that it's accessible to the kids. And reading materials are everywhere. And I started reading to the child from the moment I was pregnant. Okay, I don't know whether it works or not, but that